Discover the incredible true story behind Mutiny on the Bounty 30 Days of Heartwarming Courage. In the modest fishing town of New Bedford, Massachusetts, 17-year-old Sam Bennett stood, gazing out at the endless blue of the ocean. The salty breeze carried whispers of adventure and destiny. An old injury had left his father unable to work, and the weight of the world pressed heavily on Sam's shoulders. Every wave that lapped at the shore seemed to take a piece of hope with it, as neighbors lost their dreams to the unforgiving grip of poverty. The air was thick with the scent of fish and despair, yet somewhere within Sam flickered a yearning for something greater, an adventure beyond the horizon waiting to swallow him whole. The docks were alive, bustling with the sounds of laughter and toil, contrasting sharply with the fears drowning in Sam's heart. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the waves, locals gathered, sharing stories that sparkled like the stars above. Sam longed for the tales of distant lands, of men who dared to chase the horizon until their dreams were realized. One evening, whispers of a whaling expedition to the Pacific Islands sent his heart racing. Fortune and freedom could be his if he took the plunge. It was a decision that would change everything. "Sam, don't go," his mother pleaded, tears staining her cheeks as he prepared to depart. The family's struggle was evident, and leaving wasn't just an adventure. It was a lifeline he hoped to toss back to them. With a heavy heart, Sam kissed her forehead and promised to return full of tales and riches. He stepped aboard the great ship, eyes locked on the sea that had both nurtured and haunted him. The ship creaked and groaned as it set sail, carving through the restless waves. Sam felt the thrill of the wind against his face and tasted freedom on his lips. But it wasn't long before shadows loomed. Fellow sailors came from all walks of life, bonding over shared dreams. But when one was mocked for his humble origins, Sam felt a darkness creep in. It simmered below the surface, an ugly reminder of the very prejudices that plagued his hometown. "Listen, we're all in this together," Sam spoke, raising his voice above the chatter. "We deserve to be treated as equals." The petition he put forth was met with laughter, brushing aside his hopes like waves crashing on the shore. With despair gripping his heart, he sank into silence. But then the storm arrived. Dark clouds swirled overhead, turning brother against brother as fear gripped the crew. Lightning illuminated faces filled with terror, and in that chaos, everything changed. Voices surged, rising above the howling winds, like a dam breaking. The mutiny ignited a desire for dignity sweeping through the ship. Together, Sam shouted, adrenaline coursing through his veins. In the eye of the storm, anger became unity. They shed pretense, and Sam saw not sailors, but brothers, fighting for respect and recognition. It was a moment of courage and desperation, a testament to growth and identity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When the storm finally soothed its rage, Sam stood amidst his comrades, a fire ignited in his heart. They had not just survived. They had become a family. As they emerged from the chaos, the vast ocean stretched before them, an endless promise. Sam knew this journey would not merely shape him but perhaps change the tides of his hometown forever. Returning to New Bedford after 30 tumultuous days at sea, Sam saw the familiar shores anew. But the question lingered in his heart like an echo of the waves. Could the lessons learned at sea heal the wounds of prejudice awaiting him back on land? Would the strength of camaraderie he had forged withstand the pressures of a society still marred by inequality? As the salty air welcomed him home, the ocean's call whispered secrets yet to be unveiled, leaving the promise of hope fluttering against his chest. Stepping off the ship, Sam felt the shift beneath his feet, a solid grounding that seemed to pull him back into a world he barely recognized. The town bustled just as he had left it, but to him, everything felt different. The straw hats and faded dresses of the townspeople spun together like forgotten threads in a tapestry. The whisper of the ocean lingered in his ears, a melody only he seemed to hear. He caught sight of his mother, her silhouette like a lighthouse amidst the crowd, and he rushed forward, his heart in his throat. She turned, her eyes brightening, yet shadowed by worry. When they embraced, Sam felt the warmth of her love but also the weight of her expectations. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked, pulling back to scan his face. He hesitated, recalling the strength he had found at sea, the equality he had fought for. "I found more than I ever dreamed, Mom." Sam paused, unsure how to explain the transformation within him. "I fought for something bigger than myself." Her brow furrowed, confusion playing at the edges of her expression. "Bigger than you? But you're home now. This is what matters." Sam nodded, yet doubt danced in his mind. His journey had not only been about adventure but a reckoning with dignity and identity, an identity forged in the fire of a storm and the voices of brothers united for a cause. As the sun dipped low, painting the world in hues of gold and crimson, he walked through familiar streets, his heart heavy yet determined. He passed by the old tavern where fishermen gathered, their laughter echoing as loud as the waves he'd come to cherish. But within that laughter were harsh words that rang in his ears, a reminder of the very prejudice he sought to fight. Sitting at the docks, the familiar faces of his friends appeared, but they greeted him with the same old jokes and jabs he had left behind. "Look who's back from his grand adventure. Found any whales, Sam?" One of them jeered, laughter rolling like thunder. "Leave him be," another chimed in, though his tone carried disbelief. "He probably thinks he's better than us now." Sam clenched his fists, suffocating the bitterness that bubbled within him. "You have no idea what I've seen," he shot back, his voice rising. The crew's laughter faded for a heartbeat, but the whispers returned, a dark undertone to the joviality. He looked to them, contemplating whether they would only see him as he once was, just a dreamer, just a boy. "Just because I've been out there doesn't mean I think I'm better," he finally said, softer now. "We came together on that ship no matter where we're from. We all deserve respect. We need to treat each other better. I've seen what can happen when people unite." He watched as the laughter faded, replaced by a tense silence that hung in the air. In that moment, he understood the true challenge before him. It wouldn't just be about bringing tales of adventure home. It would be about changing hearts and minds. The gathering crowd fell silent, their expressions shifting from mockery to curiosity. Could he really make them see? His heart raced, the weight of his journey pressing upon him. Could he inspire the hometown he loved to embrace change? Just then, a girl from his past, Clara, stepped forward. Her wide eyes sparkled with recognition and something else, fear? Admiration? "What do you mean, Sam? What did you experience out there?" Sam took a deep breath, readying himself for a response that could alter everything. He was not just a boy who returned. He was a man with lessons to share. "Let me tell you," as his voice rose above the whispers, a new kind of storm loomed. Would they listen? Would they be willing to change? Sam felt hope stir within, but uncertainty lingered just as tightly. And as he began to recount the waves of courage he had met, a single thought pulsed within him. Perhaps this time his journey was just beginning. Sam searched the eyes of the crowd, feeling a surge of urgency. The stories he had to tell were not just tales of adventure. They were lessons woven with reality. He swallowed hard, pulling memories from deep within to share with his friends and neighbors. "It wasn't just the sea or the storms we faced," he began, his voice steady yet tender. "It was the people I traveled with. Men and women from all walks of life, coming together for a purpose. We were each other's lifelines." The faces in front of him shifted as they processed his words. Some leaned forward, drawn in. Others exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of this version of Sam. The boy they once knew was speaking to them as an equal, not as a mere dreamer. "I remember one moment there was a storm so fierce it could swallow us whole. But standing there, surrounded by my crew, I realized something. We weren't just fighting the elements. We were fighting for each other. We were brothers and sisters forged in fire. He paused, his heart pounding. That was where I found the strength to stand up for what's right, to demand respect not just for me, but for everyone. He caught Clara's eye again, her expression now sharpened with interest. We had men who were once seen as lesser, looked down upon. But when it came down to it, their courage outshone everything. They saved lives. They showed me that dignity isn't given. It's earned by how we treat one another. The air grew heavy, a blend of nostalgia and newfound hope pulsating between him and the crowd. Sam felt the weight of his words settle like a gentle rain, softening the hardened edges. The mockery that had peppered the air turned to a thoughtful silence, and for a moment, he dared to believe he could shift their hearts. If we can stand together out there against the raging sea, he continued, voice growing firmer, then why can't we do it here? Why can't we lift each other up instead of tearing one another down? Some in the crowd nodded, a ripple of agreement washing through. But he also noticed skepticism lurking in the eyes of a few. Old habits were hard to break. I want us to recognize the strength in our differences, not shrink away from them, Sam urged, recalling the faces of his shipmates, their courage, igniting a wildfire of hope within him. We can be the ones to change this town, to harness our collective strength and make it a better place for all. As his words hung in the air, Clara stepped closer. But how do we start, Sam? How do we take that first step? He smiled, feeling the warmth of her challenge. This was the moment he'd been waiting for, a bridge that could lead from ideas to action. We start by talking. We start by listening. Then, something unexpected happened. A voice called from the back, a rough, familiar timbre. It was Mark, one of his old friends who'd always been quick to mock. And what happens when the tough times come again? Are we meant to forget who we are? Just stand around in a circle holding hands? Anger flared briefly inside Sam, but he recognized the pain and frustration beneath Mark's skepticism. No, Mark, Sam replied, his tone softer now. We don't forget, but we don't have to carry that weight alone. We lift each other up. That's what makes us stronger. He could see it now, a flicker of understanding lighting up some faces, but doubt still loomed heavy. What he wanted to offer felt monumental, like calling for a seismic shift in tides. Let us gather again, he suggested, meeting each gaze with sincerity. We can share our stories, work through the hard stuff together. It won't be easy, but it'll be worth it. As murmurs spread through the crowd, he saw Clara nod eagerly. The tension from moments before seemed to dissolve, replaced by a tentative hope. But just then, a sudden shout cut through the air. What makes you think we should trust you after all this time? Sam felt his heart skip. The challenge was bold, yet he couldn't ignore the resonance beneath it. Because I believe in all of us, he answered, holding each of their eyes with as much honesty as he could muster. And I believe we deserve something better. Let us fight for it together. As the crowd's chatter swelled, conversations igniting around him, Sam felt both exhilaration and apprehension twisting in his stomach. Could he truly lead them toward change? Would the warmth of unity overshadow the cool winds of doubt? And just like that, the weight of his journey turned to possibility. But as the first step of that journey loomed on the horizon, would he be able to truly unite his town? Or would he end up fighting alone in the end? Sam's heart raced as the crowd's chatter grew. Faces lit up with curiosity, but doubt hung in the air like a thick fog. He had stirred something deep within them, but the fear of change tightened grip on their hearts. They were hesitant, wary of his words. He could sense the flicker of hope struggling against the chains of skepticism. Clara reached out, her hand brushing against his arm. They're trying to connect, Sam, she whispered, her voice gentle yet serious. But you've got to give them something more. Show them this can be real. Sam nodded slowly, absorbing her words. A part of him wanted to retreat to the comfort of familiar doubts, but he needed to push beyond that. This wasn't just about him or his journey. It was about them, about their town. He cleared his throat again, feeling the weight of expectation pressing down. Let me share one more story, Sam began, hoping to bridge the gap between fear and faith. In one of the fiercest storms we faced, I was lost in the chaos. I thought I was done for. But then one of my shipmates, a quiet guy named Will, reached out. He didn't have much to say, but his grip was strong. He held on through the worst. That moment showed me something invaluable sometimes. It isn't about what you say. It's about what you do for each other. He glanced around, gauging their reactions. Mark shifted uneasily, his arms crossed tightly. But there were other faces that began to soften a fraction. As if in that brief flash of vulnerability, they saw a piece of themselves in Sam's story. What if we could be that for one another here? Sam asked, his voice rising with fervor. What if we didn't just brush past each other every day, but stopped to recognize our shared struggles? If we held on just like Will did, wouldn't we be stronger? A murmur rippled through the crowd. A few people exchanged glances, unsure but intrigued. Sam pressed forward, determined to draw them in. I know I'm asking a lot, he admitted. Change isn't easy and it takes time. But that first step starts with trust. Let us not build walls between us. Let us build a bridge instead. His gaze shifted to Mark. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes just like everyone else. But if there's anything I've learned, it's that our mistakes don't define us. Our choices do. There it was, the crack in the armor of skepticism. Sam could see it. He pushed onward, drawing strength from this flicker. Let us meet again. Let us talk. Let us share more of our stories, even the tough ones. We'll figure this out together. A voice called from the side. What if someone gets hurt? It was Jenna, a woman known for her straight talk. The worry in her eyebrows deepened. What if we reach out and it backfires? That's a risk we take every day, Sam replied, his voice steady. But aren't the things worth fighting for usually worth the risk? This town, our community, it needs us to stand together. We owe it to ourselves to try. Hope flickered again. Sam caught the hopeful glances exchanged between some of his neighbors. In those small moments, he could feel the storm inside him calming, making way for something beautiful. After the last words hung in the air, Clara stepped closer, her eyes glimmering. Let us not wait, she urged. Let us do it, even if it's just one conversation at a time. Mark uncrossed his arms slowly, his expression still skeptical but softer now. All right, I'll think about it, he said, the edges of his voice hinting at an openness, if only a little. As the crowd started to disperse, lighter than before, Sam's heart soared. Conversations began anew, laughter floated around him, and an unspoken pact was forming. But somewhere deep inside him, doubt whispered louder. Was this moment the seed of something great, or just a fleeting flicker in a long fight for change? The path ahead remained uncertain. Shadows still flickered at the edges of his vision. Would they hold steadfast through challenges, or would old habits shatter their newfound hope? The night began to settle in, leaving Sam wondering just how long it would take for trust to bloom and if he would have the strength to guide them through whatever awaited them next. The next morning, Sam awoke to a soft light filtering through his window, casting a warm glow over the room. He stretched, shaking off the remnants of doubt that had settled into his bones like a heavy blanket. Clara's words echoed in his mind, nudging him to take action. The conversations from last night replayed like a melody that refused to fade, that he could feel a pulse of energy in the town, the energy of possibility. Sam hurried through his morning routine, fueled by coffee and determination. As he stepped outside, the crisp air greeted him like an old friend, invigorating his spirit. People were already gathering at the corner cafe, the heart of their small community. He could see familiar faces waking up, sipping coffee, and sharing news. He strolled over, drawn toward the sounds of laughter and chatter. As he entered, a mix of smells enveloped him: freshly baked pastries, rich coffee, and a hint of cinnamon. Sam's heart raced at the thought of planting the seeds of connection right here. Sam. Clara waved from a table. She had already snagged a couple of chairs and looked eager, her eyes shining with hope. Join us. Sitting down, Sam looked around the eclectic group that had formed. Jenna was there, along with Mark and a few others from last night's meeting. The warmth of camaraderie enveloped him, dispelling the last remnants of doubt. Did you see the way people were talking after you left? Clara leaned forward, excitement bubbling in her voice. Even the grumpiest of the bunch seemed to loosen up a bit. Mark took a breath, then spoke up. Yeah, I didn't think I'd feel this smooth, I guess. But after hearing that story about Will last night, it hit differently. It made me think about how I've been living around here. Exactly, Sam said, his voice picking up enthusiasm. We need to share more stories. What if each of us brought something to the table today? A small story, a piece of our lives? The table erupted with chatter as everyone pondered their contributions. Sam felt it, an undercurrent of connection woven through their laughter and reflections. Felt real. It felt possible. Jenna raised an eyebrow. What if we did a weekly story swap? Each week, one of us shares something deep. Could be anything, our fears, our wins, whatever moves us. That's brilliant, Clara exclaimed, her smile wide. It'll create a real bond. Discovering common threads can only help us move forward. Excitement danced around the table, echoing in their smiles and laughter. Sam could feel the fire igniting within everyone, a spark that could light the dark corners of their town. We can call it Stories in the Park, Mark suggested, nodding thoughtfully. A way to draw everyone in, even those who didn't show up last night. Yes. A safe place to be heard, Sam added, his mind racing with possibilities. Could open up space for those who feel alone or unclear about how to take part. As they continued brainstorming, Sam could see barriers lowering among them. The glances shared were less guarded, more trusting. Each of them began sharing snippets of their lives, moments filled with laughter and struggles. But amidst the warmth, Sam felt a flicker of concern. Would everyone be as excited when they faced the challenges ahead? Would there be bumps in the road that threatened to upend the fragile trust they were building? As the sun rose higher, casting longer shadows over the park, Sam felt a deep sense of hope wash over him. They were eager to try, willing to move forward together. Still, he couldn't shake the uncertainty lingering at the edges of his thoughts. Would their stories resonate? Would they grow stronger? Or would vulnerability create cracks in the trust they were still building? That evening, as the town gathered in the park for their first Stories in the Park, Sam stood at the edge, a mix of pride and apprehension knotting his stomach. He watched his neighbors settling in, some sharing jokes, others quietly reflecting. Tonight would be the defining moment. But as he scanned the crowd, he couldn't help but wonder. Would they open their hearts and embrace the unknown? Or would old fears hold them captive? Would they step forward into the light? Or retreat back into the shadows? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the park. Families were settling in, blankets spread out on the grass, laughter mingling with the rustling leaves. Sam could hear the nervous chatter around him. With every inhale, the scent of fresh popcorn and melting butter filled the air, mingling with unspoken anticipation. Clara was bouncing on her toes, her excitement palpable. Sam, we need to start. The view is perfect right now. He nodded, anxiety tightening his chest. Okay, let us do this. Sam stepped onto a makeshift platform, a sturdy crate that seemed about to teeter but held firm. He cleared his throat, gripping the edges of the crate as the crowd hushed. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight for Stories in the Park. This is a space to share, to connect, and to discover who we are through our stories. His words felt heavy, glowing with sincerity. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd, but the initial fears melted into something warmer, a spark of interest. Clara stepped forward, her voice rising above the rustling leaves. I'll go first. She smiled widely as she settled into her story. When I was a kid, I believed there was a dragon living in the woods. The story unfolded, her whimsical tales drawing giggles and smiles from every age present. Sam felt the warmth spread, blooming from Clara's delicate vulnerability. She painted a picture that took everyone back to their own childhoods. It was a reminder that while life was serious, laughter and imagination could still light their way. Next, it was Mark's turn. He shared a touching story of loss. The grief of losing his father blended with cherished memories. The way he recounted those moments struck a chord deeply within everyone. A few silent sniffles faded into comforting whispers as the community cocooned around Mark, wrapping him in shared pain and empathy. As each person took their turn, the atmosphere shifted. The stories resonated like echoes bouncing off the trees. Words intertwined and connected them. There was talk of dreams, failures, resilience, and courage. Each tale revealed more layers of the individuals standing before him. And then it happened, a voice trembled from the back. It was Jenna, her hands trembling as she stepped up. I typically don't share much, but here goes. She took a breath, and the crowd leaned forward, holding their collective breath. With her quivering voice, she wove a story of her struggles with anxiety. Her honesty about those dark moments ignited a powerful response within the crowd. A few began nodding, others whispered their support. The vulnerability Jenna had embraced gave permission for others to acknowledge their own. They began to realize they weren't alone in their struggles. As Sam watched the magic unfold, a deep satisfaction settled within him. They were forging bonds, creating something extraordinary right there in the glow of twilight. But just as the last story began to wrap up, the evening's promise felt delicate, fragile. Could they maintain this momentum? With the night air thickening around him, he wondered when the stories would fade. Would they still hold onto the connections they had made? As the last notes of laughter hung in the air, one thought blared within his mind. How would they hold themselves accountable when the fun faded and real-life pressures returned? When the thrill of the moment evaporated, would they retreat back into silence once again? Sam looked out at the gathering. Would they take this to heart, or was he merely dreaming? The mood in the park shifted as the last story concluded, leaving a lingering sense of hope hanging in the air. Sam glanced at Clara, who was beaming with joy, her eyes sparkling beneath the darkening sky. That was amazing, wasn't it? She whispered, her enthusiasm bubbly and infectious. He forced a smile, but inside, he felt a knot of uncertainty knitting tighter. Yeah, but what now? He asked quietly, almost to himself. The crowd began to disperse, laughter and chatter still weaving through the evening air. Families packed up their blankets, while some lingered to chat with friends, sharing their thoughts on the stories they had heard. Sam's heart raced as he observed people embracing, promising to reach out. Was this fleeting connection just a momentary spark, or would it ignite something bigger? Hey! Jenna approached him, her face still slightly flushed from the nerves of sharing. You really brought us together tonight. Felt special. Thanks, Sam said, his voice softening. But will that feeling last? Jenna shifted her weight, contemplating. I don't know, but I felt something tonight. Maybe we should try to keep this going? As she spoke, the idea blossomed within Sam's mind. What if we had regular meetups? Like a support group? We could rotate storytellers, maybe even extend it to other park-goers. The thought pulsed with excitement in his chest. Absolutely. I'd be in, Jenna replied with a grin. We could call it Together Stories, Everyone Gets a Voice. Could help so many people. Sam felt a surge of hope. And invite those who didn't share tonight. We could reach out to local schools, libraries, it could be huge. Clara joined them, overhearing their conversation. Her eyes widened with enthusiasm. I love that. Imagine what stories we could uncover. People would feel seen, less alone, but in the back of Sam's mind, doubt crept in. What if they failed? What if no one showed up? The thought made him feel flimsy, like the crate he had stood on earlier. But what if we can't keep it going? He muttered, glancing around at the diminishing crowd. Clara placed a reassuring hand on his back. We won't know unless we try. Remember, tonight was just the beginning. We created a spark, let us fan the flames. Encouraged by her words, Sam took a deep breath. Okay, let us put it together. We can collect stories, share ideas, and find ways to support each other. As night descended, a wave of excitement flowed through their small group. They huddled close, envisioning plans for future meetings, activity ideas dancing in the air like fireflies. But as they chatted, shadows stretched across the grass, and the weight of reality lingered in Sam's mind. Would they summon the courage to remain engaged? The trio parted ways that night, each carrying a flickering hope. But as Sam walked home, the evening's laughter faded, leaving room for a lingering question. Would the connections they had formed endure, or would they slip back into the silences and insecurities that had once confined them? In his heart, he wanted to believe. Yet the fear of retreat clouded his thoughts. And as he turned the corner, he couldn't shake the feeling that their true test was only beginning. Would they gather together again? And when the stories turned into struggles, would they still share their truths? The next day dawned with a wash of orange hues, sunlight filtering through the trees outside Sam's window. He pulled the curtains apart, taking in the quiet calm of the morning. Birds chirped as if heralding a new beginning. Sam felt the weight of the previous night lift slightly. Possibilities hung in the air like morning dew. He spent the morning brainstorming ideas for together stories. His notepad quickly filled with bullet points and sketches. He envisioned flyers with bold letters, the flora of the park lined with colorful paper, enticing others to join in. By noon, he felt ready. He had just finished a cup of coffee when his phone buzzed on the table. A message from Clara lit up the screen. "Are we sticking to our plan? I know we can do this." A smile appeared on Sam's face. Clara's energy always made it easier to see the bright side. He typed back, "Absolutely. Let's South meet at the park this afternoon." As he arrived at the park later, he spotted Clara and Jenna already deep in conversation by the old oak tree. They waved him over, excitement radiating from them. "Look what I printed," Jenna exclaimed, unveiling a colorful flyer. It had a catchy title, Together Stories. Share, connect, and be heard. Beneath it were details of their first event, complete with the date and time. "Wow, this looks fantastic," Sam said, his heart pounding with a mix of pride and trepidation. "What do we do next?" "We spread the word," Clara answered, her eyes gleaming. "Let us put these flyers up all over the park." So they did, walking from bench to bench, hanging flyers on trees and park bulletin boards. As they worked, Sam felt the adrenaline rush through him. Every time they shared their vision, it felt more real. A few curious passers-by stopped, reading the flyer, some even engaging in conversations about what it could mean for the community. Each conversation sparked hope, but also fear. Were they ready for this? Later that evening, with the sun setting brilliantly behind them, they gathered at their favorite bench, their first event planned for just a week away. Each of them spoke, voicing their wishes and hopes for what this gathering might accomplish. "I just want people to feel at home here," Clara said, her voice steady yet soft. "Everyone has a story. We just need to give them a place to share it." "That's the heart of it," added Jenna. "To connect, feel less alone. Isn't that what we all crave?" Sam nodded, but inside, insecurities flooded his mind. He wanted to shout that he felt the same struggles, but what if they failed? He glanced at his friends. What if nobody comes? Clara squeezed his hand reassuringly. "Then we work harder to bring them together. Whether we have one person or 100, we'll be making a difference." He stared at the horizon, caught between fear and the flicker of hope in Clara's eyes. "Okay, let us do it," he said finally, a newfound determination settling in as they headed home. All Sam could think about was the coming week. The thrill of possibility danced in his chest, but with it remained a persistent whisper of doubt. Would they find the courage to make their vision a reality? Would those they invited embrace it? Or would he face a quiet chaos of rejection? As he locked his front door behind him, the weight of the unknown settled like a fog, thick and mysterious. The moment of truth was creeping closer. Would they launch into a new chapter, or would this dream remain just that, a dream? The week passed more quickly than Sam expected. Each day had its share of anticipation and tension. Clara and Jenna were relentless, spreading the word with infectious enthusiasm. They handed out flyers at the coffee shop, shared posts on social media, and even tapped into local community groups. Their words rang out loud and clear. Together Stories was on its way. As for Sam, he found himself oscillating between excitement and dread. Every time he looked at the flyers they put up, a wave of nausea washed over him. What if nobody showed? He felt like an imposter sometimes, questioning if he was ready to step into this role of facilitator, of leader. On the morning of the event, the weather turned surprisingly sunny. Birds chirped an almost celebratory chorus as he made his way to the park, carrying a small bag filled with supplies: a notebook, pens, and extra flyers, just in case. The air was fresh, a day full of promise. Yet, one thought loomed above all others. What if it flopped? He spotted Clara and Jenna near their favorite bench, their faces beaming with excitement as they set up a small table draped in a light blue cloth. The space felt transformed, like a little island where everyone could come and go, share and listen. He joined them. Their energy was infectious. "Look at this," Jenna exclaimed, pointing to a whiteboard they propped up displaying the day's schedule and a few thought-provoking prompts to get conversations flowing, such as what story changed your life, and when did you last connect with someone. As they adjusted the board for the perfect angle, a few early attendees trickled in, faces both familiar and new. Sam's heart raced. Clara caught Sam's eye and gave him a thumbs up. For the first time that day, a small sense of comfort nestled itself in his chest. Minutes passed, and more participants began to gather. Each new arrival felt like a small victory, and Sam could almost physically feel his doubts begin to wane. He took a deep breath, pulling on that courage he was trying to summon. Then it was time. Sam stood, heart pounding against his ribs like a drum. "Welcome to Together Stories," he called, his voice gaining volume and steadiness as he spoke. "We're so glad you're here. Today is about all of us sharing, connecting, and learning. Every story matters." Clara started a conversation with a woman who had come with her daughter. Jenna moved to engage a small group who arrived together. Sam felt a surge of hope rising. People were happy to chat, eager to share. As the gathering continued, laughter erupted from one group while another shared moments of vulnerability and trust. Just watching was a joy. Sam captured snippets of their voices, their laughter, and their raw stories, realizing these were the connections they had hoped to foster. Yet, in the back of his mind, a worry lingered. Was it enough? Was he enough? Could they sustain this momentum? Or was today's spark just the beginning of a fleeting flame? As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting everything in golden hues, Clara floated over, her smile wide. "This is amazing. Look at how it's all working out." But before Sam could respond, a voice behind them caught his attention, shaking him from his thoughts. "Excuse me, I just heard about this from a friend. Can I share a story?" Sam turned, eyes wide with surprise and wonder. This was it, the moment they dreamed about. Each story shared became a thread connecting them all. But with every new face and every new story came fresh uncertainty. What would this woman say? As he replied, "Of course. We'd love to hear it." Something deep inside him clenched, a mix of hope and fear spiraling through him. What revelations would unfold next? Would this gathering become the heartbeat of the community he had envisioned? Or would they all slip back into silence after today? Sam felt it in the air, something significant was just beginning. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the park as the gathering buzzed with chatter and laughter. Sam stood at the heart of it all, feelings swirling like the autumn leaves dancing in the crisp breeze. Clara and Jenna moved among the crowd with boundless energy, bringing smiles and encouraging others to share their stories. It felt magical, a tapestry woven from shared experiences. And then it happened. A woman, shy and slightly disheveled, approached Sam, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. "Excuse me," she began, hesitantly. "I just heard about this from a friend. Can I share a story?" Sam's heart raced. This was the very spirit they had hoped to inspire, the rawness of connection that could break down walls. "Absolutely," he responded, gesturing to a nearby gathering of chairs. "We'd love to hear it." Her name was Lydia, and as she settled in, the rest of the crowd turned their attention to her. The energy shifted, a collective breath held in anticipation. Sam felt a deep thrill. This was what they were building, a space where vulnerability flourished. Lydia's voice shook slightly as she began to speak. "A few years ago, I lost my husband unexpectedly," she shared, tears glimmering in her eyes. "It was the hardest time of my life. I felt so alone, afraid of the world. But she paused, gathering herself. I had a friend who reached out, who wouldn't let me slip away. Through her, I learned that sharing pain eases the burden. I started telling my story, and it helped. Together, we found healing. A wave of silence filled the crowd, a reverent understanding enveloping them. Sam saw heads nodding, tears forming, hearts connecting with hers. I came here today to give back, to show that sharing can bring healing for more than just ourselves. Lydia continued, her voice gaining strength. We can support one another. The quiet respect transformed into warmth, reverberating through their small community, igniting whispers of empathy and shared sorrow. Sam felt a swell of pride. This was the moment. Lydia had poured herself out, and in her courage, she fueled their unity. Moments later, Clara stepped up, her face glowing with inspiration. Thank you for sharing that, Lydia. It takes so much bravery to speak out. I think we can all relate to feeling alone sometimes. A few people murmured affirmations, and Sam caught Jenna's tearful smile from across the crowd. Suddenly, others began sharing, two vigilant eyes reading the emotions in each story, recognizing parts of themselves within the narratives unfolding. Each experience was distinct yet woven together with common threads: loss, love, laughter, and most importantly, community. Soon, laughter erupted at a particularly funny story about childhood antics shared by an older gentleman. The crowd bubbled over with joy, and for a brief moment, every fear melted away, replaced by an infectious spirit of togetherness. The music of their stories mingled in the air, creating a melody that rang deep within them all as the sun sank lower, painting the sky with strokes of purple and pink. Sam's heart felt fuller than ever. In that moment, they weren't just neighbors. They were a family, a place where wounds could be healed together. Hope ignited brighter than before, strong enough to weather the storms ahead. But still, a hint of doubt lingered in the corner of Sam's mind. Would they return? Would they share again? As nighttime blanketed them, he thought of what came next. Could they translate these stories into action? The strength they found here could shape their community. Let us not make this a one-time thing. Sam spoke up, heart pounding but voice steady. We can't allow tonight to be the end of this journey. We need to create more spaces where stories can thrive, where we can support one another even when times get tough. As he finished, Clara bounced up from her seat, her enthusiasm radiating. Yes, let us schedule the next one now. More themes, more stories. We can talk about resilience, dreams, overcoming fears. Lydia chimed in. And we should also find ways to invite people who didn't come. Today, everyone's voice deserves to be heard. With their hopes soaring, they drew near to the makeshift table at the center, brainstorming ideas for their next meeting together stories. Embracing change. Every word exchanged felt electric. They were fueled by the realization that they were more than community members. They were now agents of change. As the conversations flowed into the night, Sam felt the weight of his worries lift. Their gathering was proof that they could hold on to this connection. Sam looked around at the smiling faces, the twinkling eyes, and happiness bubbling between them all. Tomorrow would present challenges. Uncertainty would creep back in, and his fears would return. But tonight, they embraced each other with open hearts. Thank you, everyone, Sam said, his voice breaking slightly from emotion, for being here, for sharing, and for believing in this with me. Let us continue to keep this lantern of hope shining together. And for the first time in a long time, Sam felt like he could breathe again. He stepped back, watching his stories blurred into laughter and connection. This was it, the transformative moment they had all been waiting for. With hope lighting the way, they walked towards tomorrow together. Now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us spread these inspiring transformations. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Your voice matters. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support our community with these actions. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.